Hi, Analisa Six here with the Lady of Leisure and the Sober Curator to bring you the June 2023 horoscope for the zodiac sign of Capricorn, Sun, and Rising placements. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I am starting to hit my wall, my energy wall, and I have this video, Aquarius and Pisces, left to get through. So I'm just going to keep it business, which I feel like Capricorn appreciates. You guys are linear business. You don't want a lot of extra information, which is hard for me. The way I communicate tends to be way extra. I tend to say the same thing like 3 or 4 different ways when I could say it probably in one way, but this is not how my communication style or brain works. But I'm going to try to do it as linearly and Capricorn-y as possible because I need to just power through it. So it's June 1st. Happy June. It's Gemini season. Today, the sun is at 10 degrees of Gemini, and where Gemini hits in the Capricorn horoscope chart is the area that has to do with health and also our daily routines and how we're of service in the world. And so those things are highlighted for you during Gemini season, and Gemini season lasts until the 21st. So this is a great month for you to get your stuff in order, like if you need to create a better schedule or system for yourself to set yourself up for success in your day, this is a really good time to start putting that into motion. If your nervous system has been feeling dysregulated, this is a really positive time to focus on getting that in order. I'm not a nervous system specialist, so you're going to have to do your own research. But this is a great month for research. Gemini is a great month for information gathering and research around things. And then, how we're of service. So whatever you do in your career, or if you do any nonprofit volunteer work, this is also a really powerful, positive time to put yourself into those things. Mercury is finishing out its stint in Taurus after having been in Taurus since April and having a big retrograde in this area that in true Taurus fashion felt like it took for fucking ever. Let's be honest. When is Mercury going to leave Taurus? Finally going to leave Taurus and enter Gemini on the 11th. So we have about a week and a half of it left in Taurus. And even though we should be starting to feel some more momentum around the things that maybe Mercury retrograde kind of stagnated, one of the things that we're moving towards this month in June, at the beginning of the month, I should say right now, is Mercury is actually moving closely to a conjunction with the planet Uranus. And so if you're feeling like things are kind of still discombobulated, that Mercury conjunction with Uranus in Taurus is going to enhance more of a kind of discombobulated energy when it comes to communication, planning, and the typical things with Mercury that we sometimes experience during the retrograde that go haywire, like things getting canceled or documents not processing or printers not working, all that kind of stuff. And the area that this is hitting for the Capricorn chart is the area that has to do with creative expression, creative self-expression. It's the house that Leo traditionally rules, but you've got Taurus here in the horoscope. And so we've got this combination of how do we feel grounded and practical about our approach to creativity and the ways that we kind of share ourselves with others, right? And, Uranus is the planet that represents chaos and destruction. Mercury represents communication. The combination of these two things can make things feel a little haywire, but it can also amplify our need to break free of structures that are not, promoting growth or creativity. So we might have some breakthroughs around the beginning of June and how we need to push past obstacles and find more practical solutions around old problems, which I feel like Capricorn sometimes has a hard time with. I would say Capricorn likes to hold on to the way, like, this has always been done. Well, we've always done it this way and it's always worked. So let's just keep doing it. And, Uranus comes in and is kind of like, no, we're going to start implementing a new way that is better, or maybe not even better, but just different. And Capricorn's like, why? So Mercury conjoining with Uranus might be kind of in this state of how do we take the structure and build upon it or change it or, try something new. And, Taurus makes a trine to Capricorn. So Earth likes Earth. There's some support there for you in that, but it's still, Uranus still kind of brings a little bit of chaos to the mix. Another thing that happened last month that I'm just kind of reminding everybody of at the beginning of this month, because it's a pretty new energy still for us, is that Jupiter is officially in Taurus now and will be for the rest of the year. And so again, this highlights the same area that Mercury has been highlighting, the area of creativity and self-expression. So this is, Jupiter is the planet that brings abundance, expansion, growth. And so when it comes to our creativity, how we express that creativity, and even like the way we experience joy and pleasure, we're evolving, expanding, and growing during this time with that, if you are Capricorn sun or rising placement. June, well, okay, scale back. The other energy that we have going on at the beginning of the month is Venus in Cancer, and Venus has been in Cancer since May, since the second week of May, and she's going to be finishing out her stint in Cancer in these first few days of June. And then on June 5th, she's going to enter Leo, and Mars is already in Leo. So she's going to join where Mars entered last month and join the Leo party. So where she's been in the area of your relationships. So if you've been feeling a desire to connect to lovers, romantic partners, that's been enhanced. If you've been feeling a need to connect with close friends, that's been enhanced. Anyone you're in business with, if you've got a business partner or something that you work closely with, that need for that relationship to get stronger has been enhanced. So she brings kind of this blessing to your personal relationships. And then she's going to be moving on to the area that represents marriage, joint resources, joint finances, finances through financial institutions like assets, inheritance, those kinds of things. And then she also, this area, I'm sorry, not Venus, but this area also has to do with sex, death, and rebirth. So deep transformation. So there's a lot of themes that come up. Mars is already here. So wherever Mars is, sorry, I bumped my table and made my screen shiver. Wherever Mars is brings challenges or conflict, but also ambition and drive to accomplish something. And so all those themes that I listed out are highlighted, and then Mars is kind of like pushing that to the forefront, but it also can be challenging. Venus comes in to amplify that, and she wants to bring resolution to the mix. She wants to bring harmony and resolution. So her and Mars are kind of together, and there's a little bit of tension there, happening, but hopefully through the challenge, we see that resolution that Venus is there to bring. Mars is going to be here for all of June. So these themes might be a little challenging for us, but Venus will be there for the rest of June after the 5th. And then Mars will leave this area in the middle of July. And then Venus is going to station retrograde here at the end of July. And Venus is going to be in this area until October. So we have a long stint with her here. So if this is a time period of your life where there's certain things that you want to get in order around your money, if you're trying to take the next phase in a relationship, like getting married or even getting divorced, like those are themes. If you're splitting assets or conjoining assets, those are a theme. If somebody passed away and there's inheritance, or even just kind of end of life things that you're having to take care of in like the legality way, that's also highlighted in this chart as well. So there's a lot of themes. Our sexuality gets ramped up when we have Venus and Mars passing through here too. So there's more of a desire for sexual intimacy, or even healing issues around sexual intimacy. So those are also big themes for the month of June. On June 3rd, we have a full moon happening at 13 degrees of Sagittarius. The full moon is a time where when it's ingressing towards its fullness, we can focus on manifesting things. When it's starting to disseminate from its fullness, we can focus on releasing or letting things go. So we can do both things during a full moon, or we can focus on just one. And the area that this is highlighting for you is the area that represents the subconscious. And so this is actually a really good time to heal things maybe from the past. If there's certain belief systems or ideologies that we've had in our past that are no longer serving us and where we're moving forward in life, this is actually a really positive time for recognizing that and letting those things go. It's really important for a Capricorn person to be given permission to let go of an old way. Capricorn is the sign that upholds tradition. And so it's really hard sometimes for a Capricorn dominant person to change and evolve in a way that conflicts with a previous belief that they kind of had rested their hat on for a long time, right? So, like I think an example might be like turn of the century stuff, right? Like, man, I kind of want to use like a racism example, which is kind of controversial, but I think like this is what happens for like the Capricorn archetype. I'm not saying you as a Capricorn person necessarily, but it's the archetype, and we could take a really extreme example and see it in a simpler way. And I feel like I'm just going to use a more extreme example with like kind of turn of the century stuff, or not even necessarily turn of the century, but just like, you know, turn of, you know, shifts in thinking with things with people, you know. And it's like we could look at race where like there was a period of time where segregation was normal, you know, and where people were trying to follow the law. You know what I mean? The law said that things had to be this way. Like Elvis Presley, for example, when he performed and wanted the crowd to, you know, basically not be segregated, and he was moving around sexually on stage. Everything he did was illegal. It wasn't just like, oh, he's so provocative and, you know, doing these things. It was straight up illegal. And so if you were a law abiding citizen and you saw yourself as somebody that was trying to uphold the law, you would have seen somebody breaking that law and seeing that as really problematic for the society. But if you're forward thinking and you know that racism is bad and that it's not, you know, ethical or moral, you wouldn't really care what the law was. You would say, no, this is a humanitarian issue and we should not be segregating people based on the color of their skin. I'm going to break the law because this is a stupid law, you know, like this law shouldn't be in place. Capricorn, the archetype, is trying to uphold kind of what the societal structure is, because that's what's seen as moving things forward in that way of like, well, we have a law to keep, you know, society to operate in this functional way. But some signs like Aquarius, for example, or even Sagittarius, those two signs are very much about, but is this ethically and morally right? It might be the law, but is it necessarily right? And Capricorn isn't necessarily about whether something's right or wrong. It's just about upholding a structure or a system. It's not until we get into the signs that really question things or advocate for things where we start to ask, but is this still working? So that's a really extreme example, but it's an example of just because something is societally accepted for a period of time or is even a law doesn't necessarily make it right or like something that we should continue, you know. And we're obviously seeing a lot of that type of upheaval in our country around women's rights for our bodies, you know, the what is the definition of church and state in terms of those things, right? Because there's a lot of religious agendas with that. And so we see all of that, you know, and our belief systems, which is Sagittarius's belief systems do affect the laws that we put into place. That's what a vote is, right? We're voting on how we're agreeing to be a society. And so I think that's where it gets kind of blurred, because if you're in a certain ideology and belief system, the things that you might think should be laws are very different from somebody else's ideology or belief system. And I think that's where it's hard for people to separate their religious views from their political views, you know. And there's some of us where we do that successfully. Like what I do for myself in my own spirituality, I don't care if anybody else does, you know, and I think we should have the freedom to do that to a certain extent, as long as we're not harming anybody, right? So I think that when you're a Capricorn dominant person and you have a full moon in Sagittarius, Sagittarius is that, you know, is it right? Is it working for me? Is it moral? Is it ethical? Is it in line with my values, my belief system? What are my values and my belief systems? And are my values and belief systems still the same as they were 15 years ago, 20 years ago? Those things also evolve and change, but not everyone allows themselves to evolve and change in those ways, right? I mean, I think of kind of like the patriarchy, the old white guy patriarchy agenda, and I'm not an old white guy, you know, so a lot of the things that make sense to some old white guy that probably came from money do not resonate for me. Like, it's just not my reality. You know, I am a mixed race woman with immigrant family members that, you know, like I've got a white side and I've got a brown side, and I'm very like, I'm a female, you know, I'm heavily tattooed. Like I'm not like a stereotypical normie, you know, kind of thing. I don't know what I'm trying to say. So a lot of the things that a lot of the people in power what makes sense to them doesn't resonate for me. It doesn't make sense to me. That's not my experience. That's not my shared reality. And so I'm watching it and I'm like, yeah, that doesn't speak to me. That's not me. You know, if that was how I grew up and that was my life and that was if that was normal for me, then maybe I would resonate with it, but I don't. And so I think that it's important for the Capricorn person to, you know, Sagittarius is very like break free. So how do you reflect on your own ideologies, your own belief systems, and ask yourself, you know, is this me? Is this who I want to be? Is this in alignment with who I am? Or is this a structure that was given to me by somebody else, be it a family member or society or academic program or whomever that I've put on a pedestal? And am I holding on to it so tightly that I'm having a hard time moving away into other maybe thoughts or ideas or values that would actually help promote my growth in this other way, but it might cause a rift for me about that old thing, you know? And so you might be a Capricorn listening to this and feeling like, been there, done that, already done that work on myself, don't have issues with it anymore, moving on. And that's great. Or you might be a Capricorn where you don't even notice those things in yourself because it's just so deeply ingrained. Or you might be one of those Capricorns that really doesn't want to change and wants to hold on to whatever that is for you. And when these full moons or these transits happening in these signs, sometimes it forces us to have to look into these other areas or pockets that we've been neglecting. And this area where the full moon's happening for you is the subconscious. And for some people who are not super in touch with their subconscious or doing subconscious healing or subconscious work, these transits can go and come and you don't even notice they're happening. But you might feel uncomfortable and not know why, you know, or you might feel like you're questioning things and not know why, or you might feel like something's challenging you and you don't know why. And a lot of the why, from my perspective, is to help get you to think about these bigger picture things rather than just kind of the linear thing, you know. This reminds me, so there was this engineer that recently quit Google because he had developed a bunch of AI technology and it started to freak him out. And he was like, I just can't be a part of this company anymore because they're creating tech that could destroy the world. And I've been a part of it for too long. So I have to let the public know and I have to announce that I'm leaving due to these reasons. And I read this and I was like, you're just now having this realization. You're just now having an ethical, moral obligation to the public after you've already been doing this work for 20 years at Google. Like, what did you think you were doing 20 years ago? Like, you know what I mean? And so in my mind, that's kind of like what I'm talking about, where this person had this one thought process and somehow was okay with going through the motions and just doing the work. And then one day had this epiphany, like, oh my God, what am I doing? I have values around this and I'm not exercising them. And that's how these transits work. Like we might one day be going through the motions, everything's fine, we're in our bubble, you know, we don't have any issues. And then all of a sudden this new awareness comes to us and we're like, oh my God, this isn't how I feel anymore about this, right? That's what happened to me with veganism. You know, it was just kind of like this wake up call with animals' rights, you know, where I was just like, I can't be a part of this anymore, you know, and it's different for everybody. You know, I also had that with alcohol. For this guy, it was robots and AI, you know, for some people it's plastic in their home or how they dispose of trash or energy, you know, we all have our thing, you know, but I think that, you know, Sagittarius energy, especially when it's passing through the area of the subconscious, does that to us. It kind of jolts us. So that's happening on the 3rd in a couple days. After our full moon, the Venus will move in Leo. I already talked about that. And then on the 11th in June, Mercury will finally enter Gemini and leave Taurus. And so this again adds to the area where the sun is. That has to do with our health, our daily routines, power of service. So this is a really positive time to really be planning your day in a way that's successful for you, finding ways to regulate your nervous system. You know, it's a very good time to put things in order. So organizing things, planning things in a way in your day that sets you up for success, that makes you feel like you're in control of how everything's going, which I know is important for Capricorn, to feel in control of things. I've said this in every horoscope video. I'm not laying out every transit of the week in the horoscopes. I'm only doing that in the month astrology forecast. So there's a separate video that's just the June astrology forecast where I go into each and every little transit for the week. And I think that is more relevant on a personal individual level for your chart. If you look at it where it's happening in your personal birth chart, in the horoscope, I just go through kind of the vibe of the month. So then after June 11th, with Mercury entering Gemini, Saturn's going to station retrograde at 7 degrees Pisces on the 17th. And then on the 18th, we're going to have a new moon in Gemini at 26 degrees. And that's hitting that same area that Mercury's in, where, you know, your daily routine, your health, and how you're of service is highlighted. And new moons are all about setting intentions. And so whatever we wish to grow or kind of renew in our lives, the new moon is good for. So again, any goals you have around your health, any goals you have around your daily routine and how you're of service in the world is highlighted for you. So you can set intentions there. Good examples of that, you know, like if you're one of those people where you're not that stoked on your morning routine, or maybe your sleep routine, maybe you're not good at falling asleep the right way, maybe you're on your phone too long or staying up too late, or maybe you're eating badly at night, this is a good time to be kind of reining that in and really like executing a plan that sets you up better in all the ways. And then after that, on the 21st, we will be entering Cancer season. It's our summer solstice. We're finally starting summer. And Cancer, where it hits in the Capricorn horoscope, is the area that Venus had been in May and at the beginning of the month. And it's the area that has to do with relationships. So lovers, personal relationships, dating, business partners, best friends. So the sun's going to be highlighting that and bringing a lot of attention and energy to those themes in your life. And then on the 27th, Mercury is going to be joining the Cancer party and also adding more energy to that mix, and also having you focus more on your communication dynamics with people, because it's in Cancer as well. There's more of kind of this need for empathy and vulnerability and deeper emotional connection with people, and also probably feeling like you can be vulnerable, which is hard for Capricorn. Most Capricorns that I know, because I have a lot in my life that I absolutely adore, are extremely sensitive people, even though they put off a very hard, tough exterior. And so what's hard a lot of times for Capricorn is knowing how to be vulnerable in a way that feels safe. And so that might be something that you're working on in your personal relationships with Mercury and the sun passing through here, is how can I open up more about my feelings and be more vulnerable in a way that's constructive and empowering to me, and where I can, you know, really connect with people in that way. And sometimes it's you having to be that way for others, not necessarily for yourself, just to kind of show people that you have that depth to you. Because if Capricorn stonewalls and kind of shuts down, that can be hurtful for relationships, especially if you have other people in your life that are also needing more of that emotional connection from you. All right, Capricorn, I tried to be as linear as possible and not say the same thing more than twice. Maybe I did, I don't know. But I wish you the best of luck, and make sure that you really take good care of your nervous system this month, because that is a big theme for you in June. All right, I will see you all next month, and good luck.